The high-temperature apocalypse arrived silently. At first, no one paid attention to this disaster. It started with several consecutive days of extreme heat. Then came the drought in the fields. Lakes dried up. By the time people realized how serious it was, the doomsday had already arrived. It's so hot, it's unbearable. Why is it so hot this year? Yeah, it's been over 40 degrees Celsius for 3 straight days. It's enough to drive people crazy. People rushed along the way after work. Almost no one lingered on the main roads. Everyone moved as fast as possible into buildings to escape the heat. I stopped my car at an intersection waiting for the light. Glanced at my phone. 5:45 p.m. Temperature 38 degrees already felt Celsius. Suffocating. Yet the sun hadn't even set. The sunlight and intense heat made it feel like it was still midday. Today's temperature felt more abnormal than usual. The light turned green. I hesitated for a moment, didn't head home. Instead, I turned left toward the city's largest supermarket, planning to stock up on supplies. It's Friday today. Tomorrow is the weekend. If the weather continues to exceed 40 degrees Celsius, I'll ask the company for leave and stay at home for a few days to avoid the heat. After all, I just finished a major project non-stop. The company shouldn't refuse my leave request. I rushed into the supermarket, went straight to the fresh food section, bought a large quantity of everyday groceries, then went to the frozen section for steaks, frozen fish and shrimp. Next, I grabbed snacks, sanitary pads, and other daily necessities, filled up 4 whole shopping carts. Unexpectedly, the supermarket also offered home delivery. Now, I live alone in a high-end residential area on the outskirts. Mid-floor, 16th floor. Not too high, not too low. 1 stairwell, 2 with a separate security door. Maybe because of different schedules. And great soundproofing. I've never seen the neighbors next door. Only an umbrella occasionally left by the elevator. Shows that someone else still lives on this floor. It took me over 10 minutes to sort everything and store it all into my big freezer and fridge. Because the community was once locked down due to COVID. I specifically bought a large freezer. Right now, it's about 80% full. 1/3 of the space is taken up by my favorite ice cream. The rest is frozen chicken, duck, and animal organs. There's even half a pig carcass. These were all sent to me by my mom from my hometown. My family leased a mountain back home. The elderly raise pigs, chickens, and ducks there. They love to send me frozen goods frequently. It just keeps piling up. I was stuffing some drinks into the fridge when I received a text message on my phone. I glanced at it out of the corner of my eye. A red high-temperature alert from the City Weather Bureau. A glaring 41 degrees Celsius jumped out. Tomorrow's temperature will hit a new high in the city, reaching over 41 degrees Celsius. All citizens are advised to avoid going outdoors between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. If there are elderly or children at home, seeing 41 degrees Celsius, I couldn't help but curse. I immediately grabbed my phone and asked my boss for leave. In this kind of heat, there's no way I'm going outside to be grilled. I'll take as many days off as I can. I calculated the compensatory leave I've accumulated from rushing major projects over the past half year. Plus the weekends. I should be able to take around 20 days off. Surely it won't still be this hot after 20 days. The leave was approved quickly. After showering, I saw the leave request was already approved. I also had 2 missed calls. They were from my mom. I called her back. Mum, hello? Chinking here. The temperature is really high over there, huh? If there's nothing urgent, don't go outside. What if you get heat stroke while alone? You should ask for leave from work too. Don't go to the office. You silly girl. You used to run around in 39 degrees Celsius heat when you were little. I know, Mom. You two need to stay cool too. Don't be reluctant to turn on the AC. Got it. As I reminded her, she started nagging me with some irritation. She went on for over 10 minutes straight. I finally found an excuse to hang up the phone. This summer has truly been unnaturally hot. I opened a box of ice cream, sat comfortably on the couch, turned on the TV while eating. Recent continuous heat waves have caused over 1,000 deaths across European countries. Some areas in India have hit over 55 degrees Celsius. Such temperatures are no longer suitable for human habitation. As soon as I turned on the TV, it was all global heat. I felt fortunate to live in China, where air conditioner exceeds 100% per capita. At that time, I didn't yet know that in just a few short days, the unrelenting heat would keep climbing and would soon teach me what it really means to be uninhabitable for humans. Over the next weekend, I happily ran the AC on a constant 24-hour cycle, woke up naturally, and spent the day watching dramas and playing games at home. When it was mealtime, I cooked a dish and made soup for myself, comfortably enjoying a staycation at home. That morning, I was sound asleep. Suddenly, my phone rang and woke me up. It was my colleague, Wang Ling. Chinking, why didn't you come to work today? I'm on leave. A long one. You won't see me until next month. I let out a long yawn. He's the one I'm closest to in the company. I quickly sat up. It's nothing, just too hot to go to work. I want to rest a bit, don't worry. I chuckled. Really envy you for taking leave now. My project still has wrapping up work to do. Otherwise, I take time off too. You know what? On my way to the office this morning, my hand got sunburned. Wang Ling complained a little, then hung up the call. I glanced at the time. 8:45 a.m. I got out of bed and drew back the blackout curtains, then opened the window to check the weather. A wave of hot air rushed in instantly. Everything in sight looked distorted from the heat. I quickly shut the window and pulled the curtain closed. This is outrageous. It's just too hot. In this kind of weather, how do people who work outdoors survive? I checked the weather forecast. It showed 39 degrees Celsius. But then it refreshed automatically and jumped to 40 degrees Celsius. The forecast for the coming hours actually showed a continuous upward trend. Am I going crazy, or is the forecast going crazy? Yesterday's high was still 40 degrees Celsius. But today it's rising to 43 degrees Celsius. Terrified, I quietly made myself a simple breakfast and ate it. Then I packed up the trash, planning to take it out before it got any hotter. I went downstairs to take out the trash. Just as I opened the door, I ran into Zhao Chun from property management. He had just knocked on the door across from mine. He turned his head and saw me. He gave me a friendly smile. I smiled back at him. That was when I saw the neighbor I'd never met before. He had slightly long hair and dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he had just woken up. Our eyes met briefly, and we nodded at each other. Great, you're here too. You can hear this as well. So here's the situation. I'm here to inform you. Due to extreme heat, we might experience power outages. If that happens, don't panic. Our complex has solar power backup systems. It takes about 10 minutes to activate after a blackout. During that time, please conserve electricity. Set your AC to 26 degrees Celsius or higher. Will there be a water outage too? I asked. He said, that's but we still recommend storing some drinking water at home. This heat is outrageous. We property managers can't guarantee anything. Really sorry about that. The man across the hall nodded, then shut the door without a word. Doesn't seem like a very polite guy. But Zhao Chun wasn't annoyed. I asked him if he wanted to come in and take a break. He declined, said he needed to hurry and notify the rest of the building in person as quickly as possible. In case someone missed the notice. He even helped me throw out the trash on his way. That 20 yuan per square meter management was definitely worth it. The facilities in this complex are super advanced, and the service is excellent and thoughtful. After seeing him off, I walked to the window. Today, I heard an unusual number of ambulances and fire trucks go by. I curled up on the couch with the AC on, eating ice cream, feeling slightly guilty. Online news feeds started playing on a loop. Reports from across the country. Disasters caused by the extreme heat in various regions. One video had been pushed to the top. It featured a news reporter. For the first 30 seconds, he had no hat on, braving the blazing sun to report live on location. At the 31-second mark, smoke suddenly rose from his head. Then his hair literally caught fire. Fortunately, nearby crew members quickly doused him with bottled water. Thank you for your concern. The man was fine. During extreme heat, please avoid using too much hair wax, and try not to sit under the sun for too long. I wanted to laugh, but couldn't quite bring myself to. A vague feeling crept in that the world was headed for big trouble. Sure enough, in the following days, the temperature continued to rise. 1 week later, the daytime high reached a shocking 46 degrees Celsius. Even at midnight, it was still as high as 39 degrees Celsius. All outdoor work had been completely suspended. Almost all companies shifted to remote work. Only a few workers whose jobs couldn't stop were still hanging on at the front lines. As the heat continued, many places experienced power issues. Reports of people dying from the heat became more frequent. Authorities launched emergency relief measures. All school auditoriums with a C were opened, as well as shopping malls converted into 24-hour without air conditioning to cool down. But the death toll from the heat continued to rise with the temperature. Hospitals were overcrowded. Fires broke out frequently in both cities and social media was flooded with videos begging for help. That day, I had just taken a photo to send to my parents. When the TV suddenly went black, the entire room fell into silence. I flicked the light switch a few times, realizing that the power had gone out. Thankfully, Zhao Chun from the property team had warned me, so I wasn't too worried. After the AC shut off, the temperature in the room quickly rose. The air became thick and stifling. With every breath, the air I inhaled felt noticeably hotter. Within minutes, I was drenched in sweat. I quickly grabbed an ice cream from the freezer, sat on the floor, eating and waiting for the power to come back. I finished the ice cream, but the power still hadn't returned. I had another one. Still no power. I was starting to get restless, just as I was about to use the intercom to call property management and ask about the situation. Ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw it was the man from across the hall, still with dark circles under his eyes, sweating profusely, standing at my door. I hesitated for a moment, latched the safety chain, and opened the door a crack. Is something wrong? I asked him. What is it? The man showed me what he was holding. I looked closely. It was an ice cream bar. I just called property management. They said it'll take another half an hour. You must be really hot, huh? Have an ice cream to cool off. I still have plenty. If you're overheating, just let me know. Thanks, but no need, I replied. Maybe he noticed my guarded expression. He didn't say anything else. He just placed the ice cream on the rack by my door, then turned and left. I kept the door ajar, watching as he passed through 2 security doors and went back to his apartment. He closed the door behind him. Maybe he really is a good guy. Ice cream is like gold in this heat wave. I opened the door and took the ice cream inside, then grabbed another one from my own stash. After this one, I won't open the freezer again. Don't want all the cold air to escape. It's just unbearably hot. About 20 minutes later, I was sprawled flat on the floor, panting like a dog. It was scorching, but I didn't dare open the windows. Afraid it might be even hotter outside. 46 degrees Celsius. Weight updated at 1538. My eyes widened, The newly refreshed temperature on my phone almost made me cry out. 48 degrees was already 48. This can't be real. I must be seeing it wrong. I pressed my finger to the screen and refreshed again. But 3 consecutive updates still showed 48 degrees. Then suddenly, my phone lost all signal. It wasn't just the network. Even my phone's communication function stopped working. The temperature around me kept rising. I felt like the room itself was nearing 40 degrees Celsius. Every breath I took was filled with heat, to the point where I felt like I might suffocate. I rushed to the door, grabbed the intercom on the wall, and hit the property call button. No one answered for a long time. Had property services shut down too? The heat and fear flooded my chest all at once. The room echoed with the sound of my heavy breathing. The soundproofing was too good. I couldn't hear anything at all. No sign of life beyond myself. It was as if I was stranded on an island. I forced myself to stay calm. I walked to the freezer and yanked it open, took out a frozen duck and hugged it to my chest. That duck had been in the freezer for months. Frozen solid, through and through. It helped cool me down a bit, and also calmed me down. I began thinking, what would I do if I passed out from heat stroke alone? Right Hoxiang Genki liquid. I opened a bottle and drank it all in one gulp. Then I rubbed medicated balm on my forehead, neck, and underarms to release heat. Then I went to the bedroom and got a blanket, soaked it in a tub of water in the bathroom, and draped it over myself. I had done everything I could. I gobbled down an ice cream bar, watching the wall clock repeatedly, regretting not buying one with a thermometer. No way to tell how hot it was inside the room. But even if I knew, what difference would it make? I don't know how much time passed. Maybe a few minutes. Maybe half an hour. Suddenly, the intercom by the door rang. Attention residents. We are experiencing an extreme heat disaster. The solar panels of the community have failed. We are currently unable to restore power. Residents may temporarily shelter in the underground garage. The temperature on basement level 1 is 39.8 degrees Celsius. Is 38 degrees Celsius. The underground parking garage. Why didn't I think of that? I was just about to rush out, then stopped and packed a backpack, changed into lighter clothes and packed the remaining balm, and all the Woxiang Genki liquid. I also stuffed in 2 pieces of bread and 3 bottles of water. Only then did I open the door. As I opened the door across from mine opened too. My neighbor stepped out, carrying a big backpack. What a coincidence, I'd never seen him before. But since the heat disaster began, we've met every time the door's open. Come with me. My car's gas tank is full. I instinctively took a step back. Sorry, I don't mean any harm. You probably have a car too. We can sit in the car with the AC on. When my fuel runs out, we'll switch to yours. That way, we can hold out for longer. He looked into my eyes, seemingly a bit flustered. There were windows in the corridor. Sunlight poured in hotter than indoors. The air I inhaled felt scalding. Even my eyes were starting to sting. I gasped for breath a few times. I took a few deep breaths. I grabbed the car keys hanging by the door, then shut the door behind me. In a natural disaster like this, no one can make it through alone. Only by sticking together can we survive. I had no choice but to agree with him. My neighbor walked ahead of me and opened the stairwell door. A cool breeze swept over us immediately. No one usually uses the stairs from the 16th floor, but because it's usually not ventilated, the normally stuffy stairwell felt surprisingly cool. The basement must be even more comfortable. My desire to cool off made me quicken my pace. Soon, I started hearing footsteps echoing in the stairwell, one after another, mixed with cursing and children crying. It must have been other residents who heard the property announcement and came out as well. When I passed the 5th floor, I saw an elderly man with graying hair, sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall, unresponsive as people passed by. I hesitated and said, "Sir, no need, help, just go away." I flinched in shock and hurried downstairs to basement 1. My neighbor pulled out his car keys, and a nearby car flashed its lights twice. It was parked close to the stairwell. He rushed toward it. With 3 quick steps, he reached the car, yanked open the driver's door, and tossed his backpack into the passenger seat, then started the engine. As the engine roared to life, the car gave a slight shake, and a strong smell of gasoline filled the air, making my stomach churn violently. To be honest, I get carsick really easily, but I had no other choice but to get in. So I crawled into the back seat. The car was spacious, but the air inside was terrible. It reeked of fermented fruit and sourness, with the gasoline smell already bothering me. This weird stench almost made me vomit. I searched around, and sure enough, found a bag of rotten fruit. I hesitated for a moment, but in the end didn't throw it out. I just tied the plastic bag tightly and tossed it in a corner. We didn't have much food. I had to prepare for the worst. The AC was on, and the temperature in the car slowly started to drop. Though it was still stuffy, at least it wasn't as hot anymore. People were passing by one after another, each getting into nearby cars. Clearly, they had the same idea as my neighbor. Great minds think alike. Those entering basement 1 saw cars full of people. Some turned around to head back upstairs, probably to get their car keys. Others hesitated for a moment before going down to basement 2. I saw several property staff rushing through the stairwell, each carrying a box of bottled water. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lujo. What should I call you? My neighbor in the driver's seat finally spoke. I'm Fang Qing, I replied. After that, We didn't say anything else, just quietly sat there, feeling the car slowly cool down. Who knows when this natural disaster will come to an end? The air was as heavy as the silence. The only sound was the hum of the AC. It filled the car with a soft buzz. After a while, he turned on the car radio. According to reports, this extreme heat wave is expected to continue for another week. All residents are advised to avoid going outside as much as possible. Bad news blared from the moment it was turned on. I sighed deeply and quietly wondered whether the bread and water in my backpack would be enough. If I had known, I wouldn't have brought. I could have packed more food or water instead. Greenland's temperature has reached nearly 70 degrees Celsius in recent days. Glaciers are melting. Extreme weather is turning half the world red. Scientists predict that in the next 10 years, peak temperatures may rise even higher. He flicked through a few radio channels, then quietly turned it off. No point listening anymore. Each update made things feel worse, more hopeless. Because the car was parked close to the stairwell. More and more people passed by our vehicle. There were elderly people, children, mostly family groups, all in a hurry. I silently watched them go by. The ceiling light flickered a few times, and my heart skipped a beat. Just then, the neighbor in the driver's seat suddenly slammed his hand on the steering wheel. Fang Ching, I was wrong. We have to go back upstairs. We shouldn't have come down here. There are too many cars. It's going to get extremely hot here soon, and it's very dangerous. You mean? I suddenly realized something too. I quickly looked around. Anyone who had a car basically had the same idea, to use it to escape the heat. 8 out of 10 cars around us had their engines running. People were still climbing into empty cars. Exhaust fumes would cause the temperature to rise even more, and carbon monoxide levels would also increase. We need to get back upstairs. I rubbed my temples. It's easy to come down, especially to the 16th floor. If you don't want to go back upstairs, you can stay in my car. As long as you don't step outside, you should be safe. But Lu Zhou hesitated with something else to say. Once the fuel runs out, I'd still have to step out to breathe. By then, I wouldn't just be battling the heat, but possibly dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. I'll go upstairs. After weighing my options, I made my decision. The two of us got out of the car. Just then, a mother and daughter were approaching. I kindly tried to warn them, but the woman didn't even look at me. She just walked past. I didn't say anything more. I had done my duty to warn them. No need to play the saint. On our way up, we ran into Xiao Chun from property management. We told him he should probably notify the people in the parking garage. Warn them about the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. Xiao Chun froze for a moment, then muttered something quietly. Suddenly, he leaned close and whispered a few words. I watched Lu Zhou's expression shift from confusion to surprise, then to shock. Are you serious? Good luck, brother. Xiao Chun patted Lu Zhou on the shoulder, then hurried away downstairs. Lu Zhou turned back to me, his face grave. Large beads of sweat dripped down his forehead. Xiao Chun just said, the property's thermometer shows it's not 48 degrees outside. It's 56. Do you know what 56 degrees means? The coronavirus can only survive 30 minutes at 56 degrees Celsius. I was gasping for air. So was he. In this tiny space, all we could hear was the sound of our heavy breathing. The temperature around us was still rising. Breathing in and out felt like being in a sauna. It was waves of heat, waves of unbearable discomfort. That number was just too shocking. I suspected Lu Zhou had misheard. Maybe he meant within 46 degrees Celsius. Even 46 degrees Celsius was terrifying enough. How could it rise to 56 degrees Celsius in such a short time? The extreme heat made the air thin. We had also climbed so many floors. I felt like my whole body was about to ignite. Lu Zhou didn't reply. He opened a bottle of water, drank half of it, and poured the rest over his head. His face was bright red from the heat, and even his dark eye circles had disappeared. I pulled out my last half-finished bottle of water, drank half of it, and poured the rest on my head. The cold water touched the 80% defrosted duck, giving me a trace of coolness, which cleared my head a little. With the few brain cells the heat hadn't fried, I tried to think. Right now it was around 4:30 p.m. It would be at least another hour and a half before sunset. Without a sea, indoor temperatures are usually only -5 degrees Celsius, which means if I go outdoors, I'd likely be roasted in over 50 degrees Celsius heat. Suddenly, I heard the sharp sound of glass shattering. The heat had warped the metal window frame, causing the glass to explode. An even hotter gust of air rushed in. Without thinking, we sped up. By the 13th floor, I was exhausted like a dog, panting with my tongue out. I leaned against the burning hot railing, my legs too stiff to move. Lu Zhou turned back and yanked me forward, dragging me up the stairs. The heat felt like it had taken form, becoming a fire dragon, chasing us relentlessly from behind, occasionally blasting 1,000-degree flame breath, ready to incinerate us at any moment. Finally, we reached the top floor. I practically crawled the last steps. Even touching the ground burned my palms. I cried out in pain. My throat felt like it was tearing apart. Lu Zhou fumbled for the keys in a panic, but he couldn't find them. I tugged at the back of his shirt, pointed to my own door, and said, the code is 0726. Thankfully, the keypad hadn't melted yet. We scrambled inside, rolling, breathing greedily at the remaining trace of coolness inside. That's a huge popsicle. I heard Lu Zhou's delighted voice. Coming home was the right decision. I stored so much ice, afraid of water outages earlier. I also stored a lot of water in the bathroom. Should be enough to get through the remaining hour or so. A moment later, Lu Zhou and I were lying in the bathtub water, floating a few chickens in the water. There were frozen goods everywhere in the bathroom. The scene was a bit ridiculous, but as long as it works, at least the bathroom temperature had dropped into a bearable range. You're really something. So much frozen meat in your freezer. Are you afraid of a zombie outbreak? Lu Zhou joked while cradling a duck in the water. I'd rather have a zombie outbreak. At least then I could survive at home for a few months with this food instead of dying from the heat, I said coldly, gazing out the window. This window, maybe because it's small and in the shade, wasn't baked to the point of cracking. The golden illusion outside seemed unreal. If this is a dream, I hope I wake up soon. 2 hours later, the sun finally set. The golden glow faded from the rooftops. Darkness gradually shrouded the land. Lu Zhou opened the door and stepped out of the bathroom. He took a deep breath. It finally cooled down. Suddenly, my eyes closed on their own, and I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, the living room came into view. I was lying on the sofa in the living room, just fainted for a night. Lu Zhou walked over and handed me a drink. You're awake. The water went out at midnight last night. The power still hasn't come back, and there's no cell signal either. Damn, I fell silent. If today is as hot as yesterday, it's going to be even harder to survive. I've got some good news for you. The radio function on the phone still works. Before the battery runs out, we can still listen to the news. I've got 1% left. All citizens, please stay indoors during the day. Stay hydrated. Do not go outside. Wait for rescue. This extreme heat wave may reach a maximum temperature of 60 degrees. The phone ran out of battery and shut down automatically. I stared at him numbly. A high of 60 degrees. That number makes me feel like I'm living on Flaming Mountain. Do you have a power bank? I walked into the study and took out 2 power banks. Just as I was about to hand them over, a flash of inspiration struck me. I quickly pulled out the box hidden under the bed. What's this? Lu Zhou asked. A household solar charging device. A what? I bought it a while back, never even opened it. I really admire myself sometimes. Over the past few years, I got promoted to management and earned quite a bit of money. So I bought all sorts of things. Whenever I saw something interesting or possibly useful, I bought it. If I remember correctly, this solar charging device was purchased a year and a half ago. Back then, I wanted to get an RV for travel, but gave up due to packing issues. Still, I had already bought a lot of survival gear. You're amazing, sis. You actually have this kind of thing. Lu Zhou was excited too. He hurried to help unpack it and followed the manual to set it up. Half an hour later, just before the sun rose, we placed the solar panel on the bedroom's bay window, closed the curtains, dragged a freezer into the bedroom, and set up mini fans. The sun slowly rose. Gold light once again blanketed the earth. Temperatures climbed. Lu Zhou looked at me. I nodded. He decisively pressed the power button. The hum of electricity started, the sound of appliances coming to life, and the fans beginning to spin. Music to our ears. When I bought the freezer, I didn't need fast freezing, so I chose a low-power model. If the solar panel holds up, it should be enough to sustain everything. Right now, the freezer is full of drinks and mineral water, some of it mine. The rest was moved here by Lu Zhou from his place. He said he's a game streamer and often doesn't leave home for 10 days or half a month. So he has a lot of supplies at home too. We took inventory of all the food. All the ice cream had melted. It was too hard to deal with, so I threw it away. There were originally 6 chickens in the freezer, 3 ducks, half a pig, about 5 gin, as well as 2 fish and a bag of steak. It's hard to keep this kind of meat fresh in this weather. So before it started rotting, we laid it all out on the balcony floor to see if today's high temperatures could dry it into jerky for easier storage. The leafy vegetables had mostly spoiled. After last night's heat, they gave off an awful smell. We didn't dare eat them. Getting diarrhea now would be the worst, so we threw them out too. We sprinkled some salt on the balcony to try sun-drying the veggies. I also wrapped some eggs in cloth and put them on the balcony shelf, hoping the sun would cook them. When counting the snacks, I found 2 bags of potato chips that had been baked until hard and crispy. I grabbed a bag and collected all the scattered ones from the floor. The rest of the snacks with intact packaging. Along with cookies and bread, we moved into the bedroom. The canned goods and rice were still in the kitchen cabinets and left untouched for now. Then there was a bag of apples. Since they were still fresh, we decided to eat them right away. This will be our food supply for the next couple of days. Sis, you're really something. I can't believe you had so much food hidden at home, Lu Zhou said admiringly. I got goosebumps all over. Don't call me sis. Just call me by my name. Jinking, shut it. Or you'll be the one going out. We read books all day, even with this simple cooling setup. By the afternoon we were both drenched in sweat just from sitting. The books were soaked with sweat too. That saying, a calm mind doesn't exist under extreme heat. Luckily, we made it through the evening. We charged our phones and turned on the radio. We were still a little shaken. If it weren't for that life-saving solar charger, that device, Lu Zhou and I really wouldn't know how to make it. After dark, we used our phones' flashlights to bring all the meat from the balcony inside. We almost slipped on our way out. The floor was covered in oil from the roasting. The smell of meat filled the air. You couldn't block it out. I was a bit worried at first that it might attract people with bad intentions, so I stayed cautious for days, unable to sleep peacefully at night. Fortunately, no one else showed up. Every night I slept in the bed, while Lu Zhou slept on the floor beside me. One night, a week later, I was fast asleep when a loud explosion woke me up. I sat up abruptly and looked out the window. Turns out it wasn't fireworks, but an explosion in the building across the street. The flames tore through the night. Lately we had been hearing explosions frequently and saw flashes and smoke in the distance at night, but this was the closest one yet. Another deafening blast followed. Even the glass was shaking. I screamed aloud, jumped out of bed and ran. When I came to my senses, I was already clinging to Lu Zhou's waist. It's okay. It's the building across. It won't spread to us. He awkwardly reached out and patted my hair. I shuddered and pushed him away. Fang Qing, don't come near me. I'm fine. I clenched my teeth and went into the bathroom, quickly shutting the door. The fire in the opposite building was fully ablaze. It felt like I could hear the crackling flames and people screaming. Don't worry. Are you okay? Lu Zhou knocked on the door twice. I crouched down, hugging my knees and covering my ears. The explosion rang in my mind without end, intertwined with Lu Zhou's knocking. It all came at me like a downpour. I'm fine. Don't worry. I'm just outside. Don't worry. Nothing will happen. Calm down, Lu Zhou seemed to be saying. Then the knocking stopped. I couldn't help but keep listening, just crouching there, through the window, watching the flames on the opposite building grow larger. Someone ran out from the fire, falling straight down like a bird with no wings. Someone appeared at the window, waving a flashlight desperately for help. Someone poured water from the upper floors, but it was useless. The fire still grew stronger, until it engulfed the entire building. Flames soared into the sky. Ironically, while the building across turned into a fiery hell, less than 100 meters away here, the temperature barely changed. I just held the mat, eyes wide open until dawn. The fire burned all night long. By dawn, it still hadn't gone out completely. There was a knock on the door. Fang Qing, it's me. I'm Lu Zhou. Check outside, is it raining? It was said to be raining, but in reality it was just a few scattered drops. If you didn't look closely, you wouldn't even notice it. Rain, most of it evaporated before hitting the ground. Half an hour later, I looked down from the balcony. The ground was still golden yellow. The sun had come out, and the temperature began rising again. It was artificial rain from the neighboring city. And we caught a bit of it. Lu Zhou stood behind me with his phone. Though such little rain didn't help much, artificial rainfall meant the authorities hadn't shut down. As long as we hold on, a cooler day will eventually come. We must not lose faith in survival. I brought over 2 more boxes of water. Extreme heat won't last too long. It should pass soon. The building opposite kept reigniting in some spots. Thick smoke rolled up, blocking part of the sky. Sunlight filtered through the black haze, casting crimson light. An orange glow surrounded the area. Dusty air swirled. Facing such a sight, both of us were mentally absent. We tried playing cards to forget what just happened, but eventually gave up. Each of us picked up a book to read. During that time, I went to the bathroom and found that in the bathtub, the water we used for flushing the toilet was almost gone. All the basins and buckets were completely empty. These past few days, to conserve water, we had a mutual understanding. Only flushed the toilet after a number 2. For bathing, we just wiped down with a damp towel. But over time, the high heat made it evaporate quickly. There wasn't much toilet water left. We decided to flush only once a day. Lu Zhou gave a bitter smile when he heard that, but he didn't object. We both knew there was no other choice. Fortunately, in the middle of the night 3 days later, we finally got some rain. It was artificial rainfall again, but this time, it fell over our city. The downpour in the suburbs was quite heavy. We couldn't hide our excitement. The 2 of us put anything that could collect water out onto the balcony, trying to save as much water as possible. We grabbed towels and rushed to shower and wash our hair. I heard joyful laughter from upstairs and downstairs. Clearly, many people in this building were still holding on. Half an hour later, the rain stopped. It came and went quickly. The buckets collected less than a third full, but it brought enough coolness and hope. Lu Zhou and I opened 2 cans of canned peaches as a reward for ourselves. There was still plenty of food. The heat had already killed most of our appetite. We hadn't touched the sun-dried half-pig at all. Only ate a few ducks and chickens. We never lacked drinking water or beverages. Before the disaster, I'd stocked up on drinks from the supermarket. Hadn't even finished. Just hang in there a bit longer. We'll definitely get through this. Right after changing into clean clothes, another piece of good news arrived. Cell signal was restored. A flood of text messages came in instantly. To stay updated on the outside world, even when there was no signal, we always made sure our phones were fully charged each day. I picked up my phone, and quickly browsed through the messages. They were mostly safety warnings and heat alerts, as well as information on shelters issued by authorities. We hurried to call our parents. "I'm okay over here. I have enough water to drink and enough food to eat. Please take good care of yourselves. Don't go out." But no matter how I tried, I couldn't reach my parents. I was so anxious I started crying. I hadn't cried through all these hard days, not even when the fire in the building across scared me. Still, I didn't shed a tear. But when I found out I couldn't reach my parents far away, I couldn't help but cry. Lu Zhou saw me and, a bit stiffly, gently wrapped his warm arms around me. I curled up slightly, my body trembling. "Don't be afraid, it's me. I won't hurt you. Your parents are probably just in a place with no signal. I'm sure they're anxious to reach you too. If the signal came back once, it will come back again. We just need to be patient and wait." Though the hug was clumsy, and his words not particularly clever, I still gradually calmed down at the sound of his voice. "Okay, let's wait a bit longer." But in the following days, no more good news came. The temperature quickly rose again, even higher than before the rain. It felt like the earth was about to explode. Or maybe humans just couldn't live on the surface anymore. Lu Zhou walked by with 2 boxes of bottled water. The bottles were warped from the heat. One was slipping from the plastic bag, almost falling. I quickly grabbed it. I don't know how he had so much bottled water stored at home. These days, he must have moved over a dozen boxes in total. I helped him move them into the bedroom, placing them one by one into the freezer. The heat these days made me wish I could climb into the freezer myself. I grabbed a bottle of drink and handed one to him too. We happily twisted open the caps and took a big gulp. The drink had been in the freezer overnight. It was incredibly refreshing. In this heat, we needed the freezer to cool off. It couldn't be sealed completely and lacked power, so the ice inside had already melted. Now it was just like a refrigerator's chill zone. Only at night did it stay cold enough. If we didn't drink now, the coolness would soon fade. After drinking, we lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling. Suddenly, I thought I saw the room sway a little. I thought it was just the heat playing tricks on my eyes. I rubbed my eyes. It turned out the shaking was getting stronger. "It's an earthquake." Lu Zhou suddenly scrambled up, grabbed one of my arms, and practically dragged me off the floor. He threw me into the bathroom next to the bedroom, then rushed in himself, panicking as he looked around, because we hadn't flushed the toilet. The bathroom smelled terrible, but nothing compared to the fear the quake brought. The earthquake hit without any warning and was strong. I'd heard droughts could cause ground fractures. I'd only seen snippets online, never looked into it. After so many days of heat, our overheated minds hadn't thought of it at all, completely unprepared. Suddenly, the building began to sway violently. Then it returned to normal, then shook again, up and down, like a giant snake slithering underneath. I screamed, grabbing the only person in front of me for comfort. Lu Zhou was much taller than me. He bent down, held me tight in his arms, shielding me as we staggered through the tremors. We bumped into the wall repeatedly, nearly fell into the bathtub. When the earthquake finally stopped, all I could hear was the pounding of our hearts and our ragged breathing, like a broken fan. The bathroom door was askew. I slumped to the floor. That earthquake damaged our life-saving solar panel. There was no way to fix it. 2/3 was shattered. The electrical box caught fire. It took us forever to find the extinguisher. The bedroom was a complete mess. After putting out the fire, we had used up our last ounce of strength. We collapsed on the floor. The sun above gazed down on us with a cruel stare. I could feel the fine hairs on my face, curling and burning from the heat, sinking into my pores, causing waves of stinging pain. In just a few more hours, the heat would kill us. I suddenly got up from the floor and started pulling water and drinks out of the freezer. I told him to push the freezer away from the window and place it at the foot of the bed. I threw all the drinks onto the bed, then stepped right in. Lu Zhou turned and went into the bathroom, poured the last bit of water into the freezer, then climbed in too. The whole process took less than 5 minutes, but the surrounding temperature had already risen to the point where even breathing had to be done carefully, as if deep breaths would inhale fireballs. The freezer was large, but it was still a tight squeeze for 2 adults. I shifted my position, moved next to him, and curled up in his arms so he could bend his knees and lie down in a cramped position. I don't know how long passed. The temperature started to rise, accompanied by aftershocks. I wasn't sure if it was my imagination, but I suddenly heard the sound of raindrops. I quickly climbed out of the freezer to check. Torrential rain pelted the shattered glass with loud crashes. I saw the sky outside was all grey. Huge raindrops were falling from the sky. Lu Zhou, it's raining. We survived. We survived. I excitedly slapped his face, trying to wake him up. His skin felt burning hot. I touched his forehead. Thankfully, he woke up from my fussing. He was trembling all over, obviously running a fever. I struggled to pull him onto the bed and quickly covered him with a blanket, but he kicked the blanket off. I stood there helplessly. I had never taken care of a sick person. I didn't know what to do. Living alone, I had stocked some cold medicine and antibiotics at home, but due to the previous pandemic, I hadn't managed to store any fever-reducing medicine. After some hesitation, I took out a box of antibiotics, added some vitamins, and brought them to the bed, feeding them to him with a drink. Fortunately, he was a cooperative
and let me do
patient.
everything.
Once it was all done, I let him sleep. I turned to pick up the bucket and wash basin from the floor, planning to collect some rainwater for storage. Raindrops kept hitting the windows, making dull thudding sounds, interweaving in high and low rhythms. There was also a humming sound in the distance, rising and falling like distant thunder. I stepped around debris on the ground and cautiously approached the balcony. Just as I was about to place the bucket and basin
I looked
down,
up
and saw the scene in the distance. Suddenly my eyes widened. My whole body froze. As far as I could see, a giant, rolling yellow dragon loomed in the distance. It surged forward with unstoppable force. White waves rolled on its back. Tall buildings collapsed wherever it passed. Lower structures were submerged and swallowed whole. What I heard wasn't thunder at all. It was the sound of floods crashing through buildings. This is impossible. It just started raining. How could there be such massive flooding? We're inland, so it can't be a tsunami. The buildings, baked by heat and shaken by earthquakes, couldn't withstand this flood. They crumbled one after another. Only a few remained standing, but they were swaying in the storm. It was only a matter of time before the ground started shaking beneath my feet. The building trembled more and more. The flood was getting close. My legs gave out, and I nearly fell. I forced myself back to the bedroom. Lu Zhou had also been awakened by the noise. He looked at me in shock. Amid the crashing, the ceiling light fell, landing straight onto the blanket. The wardrobe creaked sharply, where it met the wall. The entire bed was flipped. I felt like I had been thrown through the air, hit something, then was yanked back by a hand. It was Lu Zhou grabbing me, but in the roar, I couldn't hear him at all. We rolled in the air and fell down. The ground was still shaking beneath us. I opened my eyes. The building hadn't collapsed, just the outer wall was gone. We have to get to the 16th floor. This building has 33 floors. The 16th is right in the middle, the most stable point, and the highest the local fire department's ladders can reach. That's when we saw a helicopter outside. Suddenly, a flicker of hope filled our hearts. But then, the house shook violently again. The wardrobe fell toward Lu Zhou, pinning him underneath with a loud crash. With the flood roaring ever closer, I ignored his cries of pain and rushed to the stairwell to the 16th floor. Buildings were collapsing all around. I finally made it safely to the 16th floor balcony. Right then, a rescue helicopter passed. I shouted loudly. The helicopter noticed me and dropped a rope just as I grabbed it. The great flood completely engulfed me, but I was saved. I made it.